to Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best part of Dorothy's dream.
Today on Around Kansas, we start with a look at Kansas and the sister states. Then join us for a wildlife segment about the facts and myths of snakes. Next, we'll have a story about visiting Clinton Lake. Then we'll have a poem from Ron Wilson. And we'll end with a look at barbed wire. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Welcome to Kansas, gateway to...
Sometimes, in order to understand our own story, we have to go beyond our borders. Kansas has had a rather profound relationship with each of its neighbors. Sometimes it's contentious, as is mostly the case with Missouri to the east, i.e., the Kansas-Missouri border war. With our neighbor to the north, well, Kansas was born along with Nebraska, so the relationship has mostly been that of siblings, going their own way, but with common bonds. Our neighbor to the south, Oklahoma, was the Indian nations, or the Indian Territory, where so many native tribes were relocated. For many years, the border between Kansas and Oklahoma was ignored unless one was trying to escape jurisdiction. In fact, with relatives in the Indian Territory, our Senator Charles Curtis had a keen interest in affairs in Oklahoma, the territory, and later the state. He was often called, whether as a compliment or derisively, the third senator from Oklahoma. Colorado, for a time, was ours. At least part of it was. When the territory was created, the western border was the Continental Divide. Denver was named for the Kansas territorial governor, James Denver. Fort Leavenworth was, and is, one of the most important posts in the country. Its commanders controlled much of the West. When Colonel E.V. Sumner commanded the historic post, he created Fort Union in the New Mexico Territory, a post that would become one of the most important on the Santa Fe Trail. The trails that crisscrossed Kansas led to and from our sister states. The Santa Fe Road, the California and Oregon roads, the military roads, the Pony Express, and later the cattle trails, they all connected us, and still do. We have been marking so many anniversaries, territorial anniversaries, statehood, the Chisholm Trail a couple of years ago, and now we are planning the 200th anniversary of the Santa Fe Trail. This creates the opportunity for collaboration and cooperation between the sites in Kansas and our sister states, as we all promote one another in telling our story, our very interconnected story. So we are encouraging you to leave Kansas, not for long, mind you, but long enough to visit sites like Bent's Old Fort near La Junta, Colorado. This is simply one of the best sites in the national park system and has so many Kansas ties that I cannot list them all here. Among the interpreters there is John Carson, descendant of the legendary scout Kit Carson. John is a dead ringer for his great-grandfather and often does first-person presentations as Kit. Visit them on Facebook or find their website. They have lots of events throughout the year, most ideal for kids. On the other end of the trail is Independence, Missouri, where the National Trails Museum tells the story of how 3 major westward trails started right there. Just across the street, the Bingham Wagner Estate was home to one of America's most famous artists, George Caleb Bingham. I have many friends in the neighborhood, and I know how hard they work at sharing a very rich history. When you travel across the border, whether following the map of the Santa Fe Trail or one of the other historic trails, Take along brochures and information from your Kansas hometown. Take the time to chat about the things we have in common, about the ways we can build audience, get folks interested and involved as we mark these significant anniversaries. This is a great window of opportunity for all of us to expand our audiences past our borders. Wherever your travel takes you, let our neighbors know how much is going on around Kansas. If we can get them here, we can keep them coming back.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
This segment brought to you by the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center in Oakley.
Well, here we are, from snow to snakes. It has been an incredibly brutal winter, and spring is wreaking its own havoc across the plains. I was reminded that weather is not the only thing to watch as spring warms the prairies. Just the other day, a friend out hiking spied a snake. Good grief, we haven't even packed up the heavy coats and thick sweaters, and already it's time to watch for the creepy crawlies. For those of us that might forget how to identify one of the not-so-dangerous types from the potentially deadly types, a refresher is in order. For this, we turn to Emporia State University's The Kansas School Naturalist. This particular publication is from 1959 and authored by Robert F. Clark. These publications are a goldmine of information and insight into the natural world. I quote from the beginning of Mr. Clark's article and urge you to go online and read the rest and order these publications. From Mr. Clark. Many persons either do not know anything at all about the poisonous snakes of our state or have a distorted group of misconceptions concerning them. These misconceptions run from plain misknowledge about the range or identification of poisonous snakes to fancifully elaborate stories in which there may or may not be the barest thread of fact. The prime reason that every person should know the poisonous snakes of this region by sight and know something about their habits, distribution, and abundance is that it will ease the mind of the average individual in all of his outdoor pursuits. Most persons have heard so many false stories about snakes, they develop a fear of all snakes. This fear is unfounded. A person who knows what poisonous snakes he can expect to encounter in a given area need only to learn to identify these and realize that all other snakes, lizards, frogs, toads, salamanders, and turtles do not have a poisonous bite, and therefore he need not fear them. With a knowledge of the poisonous snakes, a person can avoid places where these snakes might be found. Another aspect is the conservation of snakes. Too many people kill snakes just because they happen to be snakes. This is uncalled for. A non-poisonous snake should no more be killed than a songbird. In many cases, the harmless snakes are of direct economic value. In general, all snakes are similar in habits. In Kansas, they retire for the winter in places where the temperatures will not get below the freezing point. These may be in rocky ledges, beneath the soil, below the roots of trees, or in protected places of human design, such as grain bins, cisterns, cellars, and silos. With the warm days of spring, the snakes emerge from their winter quarters and set about finding food and mates. After mating, the sexes separate, and each individual snake goes its own way to forage for food for the rest of the year. Some snakes lay eggs, and others produce the young live. There is about an even division of these types in Kansas. The king snakes, rat snakes, bull snakes, racers, and many smaller snakes lay eggs in early summer. These eggs are deposited in a spot suitable for hatching, generally beneath a rock or in the soil. When they hatch, the young fend for themselves. In Kansas, water snakes, garter snakes, poisonous snakes, and some smaller snakes give birth to living young in late summer or early fall. Again, the young are on their own after birth. With the coming of cooler weather, snakes leave their summer feeding grounds and travel to places where they will hibernate for the winter. Probably no other group of animals has had the variety and expanse of tall tails credited to them as have the snakes. As the stories go, there are snakes that can put their tails in their mouths and roll downhill hoop-like. Snakes that are capable of milking cows dry. Snakes that fly into pieces when struck and later reassemble into whole snakes again. Snakes that charm their prey, and others too numerous to mention here. 4 of the many untruths about poisonous snakes are: 1. Rattlesnakes cannot cross a horsehair rope. They can. 2. Cottonmouth water moccasins cannot bite underwater. They can. 3. Rattlesnakes always rattle before they strike. Not always. 4. The rattles present on the tail of a rattlesnake indicate the snake's age. No. A new segment is added each time that the skin is shed, which may occur several times during a year. The non-poisonous snakes far outnumber the poisonous kinds, both in number of species and individuals. In the United States, there are approximately 95 species of non-poisonous snakes and only 19 species of poisonous ones, including 15 rattlesnakes, 1 copperhead, 1 cottonmouth, and 2 coral snakes. In Kansas, there are 6 species of poisonous snakes, 2 should hardly be counted, and 34 species of non-poisonous snakes. Many of the non-poisonous species are common and widespread. It is far more probable that any snake seen is non-poisonous rather than poisonous. Welcome to Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in Oakley, Kansas on I-70 at exit 76. I-70, after all, is America's Main Street, and we're right here on Main Street for you. Now that I'm an Oakley resident, I still come in almost every day, and I sit and listen to the conversations of the people around me. You know, the guys who are talking about the big elk they just bagged, or the folks who are taking their kid to college for the first time. People just traveling up and down the highway. Real people, just like you and me. And they find just what I find here, real people to serve them. There's history, there's scenery. We hope you'll stop and see us soon. Welcome to Oakley.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about employee safety and work comp coverage. On your farm, do you ask your friends to come help? Are they considered employees or neighbors helping neighbors? Did you know that you can be held responsible just as if it's a work comp accident? Give me a call, we can discuss. 316-945-6733.
Nevermore do you walk the earth, his spirit rides here still. Roman knows the wild wind blows. Roman knows your legend grows. No one knows if we'll see your lights again.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Dedicated in 1975, 1,500-acre Clinton State Park is located on the northeast shore of Clinton Reservoir. The reservoir itself has 7,000 surface acres of water and reaches a depth of 55 feet. It supplies water for more than 100,000 people in northeastern Kansas, but 6 times that number visit the park each year. While the reservoir and state park serve the region well, the Wakarusa River Valley Heritage Museum reminds us of the cost of this public works project. According to the museum's director, Martha Parker, rumors of damming the Wakarusa River had persisted since the early 1900s. The potential impact on the farmers of the valley was not taken seriously until the Army Corps of Engineers began buying property for the project in the mid-1960s. Families who had filled the land for generations were forced to sell and move out. The Corps came to be regarded in much the same way as the invading Missouri border ruffians had been a century earlier. The residents were concerned not only about the loss of their land, but of their identity and history. The valley was a minefield of history, from the Bloomington Guards, the Underground Railroad, the 1st Colored Volunteer Infantry Regiment, and the home of Free State abolitionists, mostly Quakers, who paid with their lives to make Kansas free. A society incorporated to preserve this story, and the museum in Bloomington Park was born. Unable to save the home of Colonel J.C. Stella, the organization moved to the farm's milk barn, which has been renovated and expanded. The grounds are also home to the Freedom Ring sculpture that represents the communities destroyed by flooding and the legacy of those who lived there.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
My name's Karen Cope, and I have multiple sclerosis. When you have MS, on the outside you look great, but you know what's really going on in the inside is chronic body pain, chronic fatigue. And there's lots of days that I'd wake up and say, oh, please God, help me get through this day. You know, after stem cells, Chloe, my youngest daughter, she was asked by my father-in-law, how's your mom doing? And Chloe said, Grandpa, I've never had a mom like this before. Because she was 8 when I was diagnosed, and she really had no other memory of me but being sick. It's really the simple things that we do as a family, like play cards, and to be able to win at cards. You know, they all laugh because I used to repeat myself and say, what hand are we on? You know, where are we at? And it's just been really a true blessing from God, and we're really thankful.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Another landmark of the Flint Hills are the deep ravines, the deep draws, and the stone, which might look simple to a bureaucrat sitting at a desk, but when it comes time to build fences, you need to call on somebody special. This poem is entitled Uphill and Down, a tribute to the fencing man. The government man sits at a desk and draws a simple line and says, here where the property ends, a fence here would be fine. But what seems so simple in the government domain doesn't match the real world of the natural terrain. For when we need a fence built across this rugged land, we need a hard-working expert. We need the fencing man. Yes, the fencing man is he who suffers the consequence when the flint hills are the place that's required to build a fence. By contrast, in the flatlands, building fence can be a breeze, but out here in the flint hills, we can't build a fence with ease. When that line cuts across the steepest of these hills, it creates a major challenge which the fencing man fulfills. It's one thing to build fence where the land is flat and level, but it's different on these hillsides with a 60-degree bevel. It's a place where a pickup truck or four-wheeler can't squeeze, so he drags a chainsaw out by hand to cut the brush and trees. Seems it's the most inaccessible place we need the fences most, so he's hiking up a side hill with a driver and T-posts. Then he's sliding down the draw where the sides are very steep and the ground is too darn rocky to drive the posts in very deep. So while the government man draws a line across the aerial maps, the fencing man is on the ground with barbed wire and water gaps. It looks easy sitting in a room drawing up a man-made plan, but it ain't easy in the Flint Hills, so we salute the fencing man. Happy trails.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we'll be glad to answer and work with you.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
First, there was nothing but a vast open range. Native bison roam free. Then came the settlers, and with them, a need to define their territory. Soon, miles of fences were built. Territorial disputes ensued. Rights came into question, and the character of the land began to change. When the dust settled, people were once again able to live relatively in peace. The days of the open range were gone. In La Crosse, Kansas, a museum complex celebrates a seemingly mundane chore of fencing with displays on post rock and barbed wire. Some say it was the six-gun that settled the West. Others know better. It was an unusual invention that in a few short years grew into a multi-million-dollar industry, barbed wire. It was a simple invention originally designed to protect a small family garden. Within a few short years of its invention, its use had spread across the prairie and eventually around the world. Barbed wire made a number of important contributions to Western history. It redefined the landscape. The legal dispute that erupted between its inventors made its way to the United States Supreme Court and set a precedent in patent law. It made men wealthy, and their wealth built public buildings and a major university. It was a simple invention that changed the direction of history, and its impact resonates today. The Kansas Barbed Wire Museum is devoted solely to the history and legend of this part of American history, often referred to as the Devil's Rope. On exhibit are over 2,400 barbed wire varieties, including samples manufactured between the years 1870 and 1890. Hundreds of antique fencing tools illustrate the inventiveness of pioneers. The museum presents interesting ways to learn about one of the Midwest's most important contributions to America's history. Dioramas of early barbed wire use, a theater featuring educational films, the Barbed Wire Hall of Fame, the museum archives room, and a research library all help to conjure up images of settling the Midwest, range wars between homesteaders and cattlemen, and the transformation of the open prairie into America's breadbasket. Brad Penka is president of the Kansas Barbed Wire Collectors Association, and you will count yourself lucky to have him show you around. His passion is contagious. The collections are displayed so artfully, so thoughtfully, that I can promise you will never again take barbed wire for granted. Nor will you look at those picturesque rock fence posts in quite the same way. This museum complex is located next to the city park, so there's lots of room for the kids who can't be fenced in to run off some energy. A must for your Kansas bucket list.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy's dream.